going to talk to you today about a message entitled Getting What You Want. We'll start off with Psalm 37, some verses that might be familiar to you. And verse 3 says, "Trust in the Lord and do good, so shalt thou dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart." And then over in Luke, we hear from Jesus on this subject as well. In Luke 12:15, "And he said unto them, Take heed and beware of covetousness, for a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of things which he possesseth. And he spake a parable unto them, saying, The ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, What shall I do, because I have no room where to bestow my fruits? And he said, This will I do. I will pull down my barns and build greater ones. And there will I bestow all my fruits and all my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Take thine ease, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said unto him, Thou fool, this night shall thy soul be required of thee. Then whose shall those things be which thou hast provided? So is he that layeth up treasure for himself, and is not rich toward God." If there's one vice that characterizes American culture these days, it's covetousness. We're bombarded daily with advertising. You watch the TV, of course, so you're going to see advertising for all kinds of products, things that you can have, things for sale everywhere. Everywhere you go, you'll see advertising for this and that. Whatever we accumulate, there's always something better out there. And however well we may do financially and materially, somebody's got more. There's always somebody doing better. Everything surrounding us tempts us to wish for more than what we actually have. Even, and of course, let alone what we need. If you want to know how to get everything you could want in this world, there are plenty of people out there selling ways to do it. They don't work, but they're selling them. And some of those people call themselves preachers. The gurus and the false preachers selling these schemes have large followings because they tell people what they want to hear. I could go on and on about the dangers and evils of the so-called prosperity gospel, but that's not the point here. I will say this, though. I'm not here to say that being poor is inherently righteous or being rich is inherently evil. That's not the case at all. And I'm not saying that you can't make efforts to improve your lot in life. But here is some things I do intend to show you. First off, wealth is relative. And secondly, getting everything you want isn't as satisfying as you might think. And thirdly, God blesses whom he will, how he wills. Number 4, physical prosperity is not directly linked to personal spirituality. And number 5, every good thing we enjoy is a gift from God. And number 6, easy thing to say, but of course, we got to be reminded all the time, be thankful for what you do have. So last August, my family and I, we were blessed with a substantial settlement that enabled us to purchase a brand new 2025 Honda Odyssey minivan. And this is quite something for us because I had been content with, accepted the fact I'm never going to buy a brand new vehicle. Certainly not by financing. And of course, there's lots of downsides usually to that. I certainly never thought I'd be able to just go and pay for it all in full right when I got it, which is exactly what I was able to do. Yet God enabled us to get that van paid in full with plenty of money left over. And those savings came in handy when I was forced out of work for several weeks in October and November with some health issues. So I reflected on this blessing. I considered, how do you explain, what's God up to in this? He gave me something beyond what I had ever thought I could have or asked for. I never prayed for it. Certainly wanted better transportation, but I didn't think brand new was in the cards. So why does God seem to bless some of his people and even people who are not his people, but not others? Why did he give me one thing, but maybe not something else? Why doesn't God give us everything we want? The answers to these questions and more can be found in Scripture. I'll say that plenty of times. But they're not what we tend to think. Some preach and teach that God will give you everything you want on this earth if you do enough stuff to impress him. But that's not the case. Others teach that wealth and material blessings are evil. They're bad. You shouldn't want things at all. So you need to deny yourself as much pleasures and stuff so you can impress God. But that's not how he works, because neither one's entirely correct. So let's look at God's perspective on material blessings. So the first point, again, was wealth is relative. Proverbs has a lot to say about this. Proverbs 13:7. There is that maketh himself rich, yet hath nothing. There is that maketh himself poor, yet hath great riches. So wealth is not just things and money. Proverbs 15:16 and 17. Better is little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble therewith. Better is a dinner of herbs where love is than a stalled ox and hatred therewith. Over and over, several times this theme is repeated throughout Proverbs. In Ecclesiastes, Solomon said it again. There is that maketh himself... Ecclesiastes, better is a handful with quietness than both the hands full with travail and vexation of spirit. And again, Luke 12:15, Jesus said, take heed and beware of covetousness, for a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesseth. And in Revelation, God told a church that thought they were doing well, that they had a bunch of rich people financing things. He told them, he said, thou sayest, I am rich and increased with goods and have need of nothing, and you know not that thou art wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked. So God's got a different perspective. Wealth is relative. These verses make it abundantly clear that there's wealth and then there's wealth. What I mean is, God himself says one can be rich in the things of the world, yet absolutely destitute in his eyes. Let's also remember that life is short compared to eternity. It seems like just yesterday I was playing in my backyard of the house I grew up in Washington State. Now I'm nowhere near there. Whatever we accumulate in this life and enjoy, that can all be taken from us in an instant. There's a whole sermon to be had right on that point alone, but that's for another time. For now, the main thing to remember is that God sees wealth differently than the world sees it. The truth is, what you think you want isn't what you really want. Earthly pleasures don't last. So number 2, getting everything you want isn't as satisfying as you might think. Sometimes it's a curse. A man known as Spike Milligan once wryly quipped, all I ask is for a chance to prove that money doesn't make me happy. Me too. Sometimes I feel that way, but we're out of luck because Solomon already figured that out. Solomon had everything he could ever want, yet it felt like nothing when he looked back on his life. In Ecclesiastes 2, he said, I said in my heart, go to now, I will prove thee with mirth. Therefore enjoy pleasure. And behold, this is also vanity. And on throughout this passage here. He said, I sought in my heart to give myself unto wine. He said, I made me great works. I builded me houses. I planted me vineyards. I made me pools of water. I got me servants and maidens. I had servants born in my house. He's describing all these different things. I gathered me also silver and gold and the peculiar treasure of kings of provinces, and on and on. He got everything. He was the wealthiest man in the world of his time. He had everything you could ever want at that time. And what did he say? Then I looked on, in Ecclesiastes 2:11, he said, then I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought, and on all the labor I had labored to do, and behold, all was vanity and vexation of spirit, and there was no profit under the sun. Jesus, again, he warned us, your lives are not about the accumulation of possessions and pleasures. Like Jesus said, beware of covetousness. Your life does not consist of the things you possess. The things of this world don't satisfy for long. There's always something newer and better out there. Again, each of these points could be sermons by themselves. But moving on to point number 3, God blesses whom he will, how he wills. And this sometimes confuses people. There's a lot of people saying misinformation about this. But if you just look around and think for a minute, you'll see that different people experience different levels of material, physical, and spiritual blessings. Not every Christian is getting a new vehicle. Not everyone is able to live like the rich and famous. Anybody who says you can is selling you something. In a similar vein, not every Christian came to Christ at the same time. We don't always have the same teaching. We don't always learn the same things at the same time. Some people are put in powers over others, and some people are removed from power. No matter what, God is fulfilling his purposes. In 1 Corinthians 16:2, we're instructed, upon the first day of the week, let every one of you lay by him in store, as God hath prospered him, that there be no gatherings when I come. So that reinforces the point here, as God has prospered. God allows different people different amounts of physical wealth. Here in America, everyone enjoys a standard of living that most of the people in the world can only dream of. But it would be absurd to believe that Americans enjoy this prosperity because God prefers Americans over, say, the African people. No, God doesn't play favorites like that. When you realize, too, that many of the poverty-stricken people in other parts of the world live more fulfilled and joyful lives, once again you realize there's ways to be rich that doesn't involve material power or fame. In Daniel 4:17, speaking of power, at the end of the verse it says, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basest of men. God's in charge. He puts people in power. And sometimes we don't understand the kind of people he puts in power, but it always fulfills his purpose. Not because, they aren't there because they deserve it. In fact, you probably would agree with me. Most people who are in charge in government are not there because they really deserve to be. In Job, when he suffered all his trials, he said, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. He understood that it's ultimately up to God to give and take away blessings. He knew that no man is entitled to enjoy the goods of this world. You don't have it coming. We don't deserve anything. But that leads to the next point. Number 4, physical prosperity is not directly linked to personal spirituality. Again, this isn't a crazy concept, but there are people out there teaching that the better person you are, you must, if you're rich, you must be really good. Well, that's not true. In James 1:17, it says, James 5. Sorry. In James 5, it starts off, go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped treasure together for the last days. And then verse 5, ye have lived in pleasure on the earth and been wanton. Ye have nourished your hearts as in a day of slaughter. That doesn't sound like a pat on the back for the rich people, does it? We enjoy good things in this world because God allows us to enjoy them. 1 Timothy 6:17. 1 Corinthians 4:6 and 7. For who maketh thee to differ from another? And what hast thou that thou didst not receive? Now if thou didst receive it, why dost thou glory as if thou hadst received it? God has given people what he willed. We can't boast as though we, through our efforts, obtain those things and those blessings. We didn't earn the good things we enjoy in life. We have to get past this idea that those who enjoy prosperity, power, and fame, the things that everybody's warring to own, that those who enjoy those things in abundance somehow got them simply because they deserve them. We got to get that idea out of our thinking. People who enjoy those things, they don't get them necessarily because they deserve. That being said, any prosperity we do experience should be viewed as a gift because, number 5, every good thing we enjoy is a gift from God. The James 1:17. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and cometh down from the Father of lights, with whom is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. 1 Timothy 6:17. If I can get it to cooperate here. There we go. Technology. Charge them that are rich in this world that they be not high-minded, nor trust in uncertain riches, but in the living God who giveth us richly all things to enjoy. We enjoy good things in this world because God allows us to enjoy them. Do you have a new or working vehicle? You should see that as a gift from God. You have whatever good is going on in your life, see that as a gift from God. Be thankful for what you have. Like so many of us were admonished as children, there's plenty of people who don't have what you have. A lot of us here have multiple vehicles. What a convenience. What a blessing. There's people who don't have any. In 1 Corinthians 4:7 again, what was said there? It said, don't glory as if you did it, as if you got those things through your own efforts. We like to think that the things we bought and now own came to us by our own efforts. But remember, the strength, the intelligence, the ability, and the favorable circumstances come from God. Without those, you have nothing. I have nothing. If God didn't make the circumstances just right, I could not enjoy what I enjoy right now. There's no way I got that van through any effort of my own. Absolutely not. And many other things. And finally, number 6, be thankful for what you do have. In 1 Timothy 6:8, and having food and raiment, let us be therewith content. Hebrews 13:5, let your conversation be without covetousness, and be content with such things as ye have. For he has said, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. No matter where you are, no matter what's going on, you've got that. Philippians 4:11, Paul said, not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content. I mean, here in America, we enjoy too much not to be thankful. And the best way to avoid losing the blessings you've gained from God is to be thankful. Though Job shows us that's not guaranteed. But nonetheless, you owe it to God to be thankful for what you do have. I owe it to him. I thanked him very much for the new van. I also thank him for all the other blessings that I enjoy. I didn't deserve them. So I try to make sure that I'm especially thankful, that I say so. Say thank you, God, for those things. I can guarantee that you'll quickly feel like you're lacking and you don't have much, and maybe even wonder if God's going against you if you allow yourself to be ungrateful. So in conclusion, while God does bless those who walk in the light of his word and live righteously, those blessings aren't always material blessings. It's not always going to show itself in money and things. Those are nice, and I thank God for them. But that's not always where the blessings of God are. They're often in things that we as humans don't value. God gives us blessings as he sees fit for his purposes. If we get things we want, let's be grateful and praise God for them. However, if we don't get what we want, God isn't necessarily against us. In fact, more often than not, he's giving us something better in exchange. Maybe we don't see it that way, but he does. We may want money and things, but God may want us to lay up treasure in heaven. And those treasures will last well beyond this life. We may want all our health issues to be removed right now, but God may want us to learn to depend on him or grow in desire for heaven, where we'll never have health problems. We may want power and fame in this life, but God may plan for us to labor in obscurity in this life so that he will raise us up in eternity. We're often swept up in the materialism of this world, and we fail to recall Jesus' admonition that those things don't last beyond this life. And our life is but a vapor, a mere moment compared to eternity. So, going back over the points. First, wealth is relative. God sees wealth a different way. Number 2, getting everything you want isn't as satisfying as you might think. And number 3, God blesses whom he will, how he wills. And number 4, physical prosperity is not directly linked to personal spirituality. Just because somebody's doing well doesn't mean they were an especially good person. I don't think most people would particularly say that people like, say, Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos got their wealth because they were really good people in the sight of God. Number 5, every good thing we enjoy is a gift from God. And number 6, be thankful for what you do have. Let's go ahead and pray.